Hello and welcome to Positive Life Principles. As you may remember, last week we talked about the importance of not being anxious and not worrying over situations and difficulties in our life. And we talked about the importance of prayer and thanksgiving in the midst of some of our difficulties and the things that we tend to worry about. But I also told you last week that we were going to talk about another principle that Paul talks about in Philippians, and that is the principle of doing everything without complaining and arguing. Let's just talk about the complaining part. Maybe next week we'll talk about the arguing part. But on the complaining part, it's so easy to let complaints just pour out of our mouths, and often we do that without thinking or without just taking the whole situation into perspective. Often I find that when I've wasted time complaining about something I have to do or a situation in my life, it takes more energy. In fact, it drains me of energy when I complain about and grumble about a situation. And it also means when I'm complaining that I've taken my eyes off the Lord and recognizing that He has a perfect plan. And sometimes life is tough and sometimes situations are tough. And I forget that He is in control and that He is sovereign. Now, certainly there's times when we should register a concern about something, but complaining is different. Complaining is a continual whining and grumbling. A friend of mine recently told me that she was whining because she was going through trying to write bills and the money just wasn't there, and she was walking through her house just going, "Why, Lord, this is so awful. Why, Lord, why does this have to happen to me?" And as she did that, all of a sudden she just heard this little voice in her head saying, "Haven't all of your needs been met? Is there anything that you're lacking right now?" And she had to stop and think about it. She was complaining about worrying about the future, but yet each of her needs were met for that day. And it grabbed her and she started thinking, I need to just stop complaining. And every time I feel like complaining, I need to pray and ask the Lord, how does He want me to see this? And help me to see it in a new perspective, in His perspective, and a way of trusting Him. And I do want you to know that as things worked out, everything did work out for my friend. And eventually she was able to make it through that difficult and dry time. But she did it without complaining. And so I want to encourage you, let's look at complaining as something that we can get rid of. In fact, something that it drains us in our lives. Often in the Christian life, we're encouraged to fast and pray. Have you ever considered fasting from complaining? Why not try it this week to just fast from complaining? And every time you want to complain, instead of complaining, look to the Lord and say, "Lord, help me. Help me to see this differently. Thank you that you are in control and that you are sovereign and I can trust you." So let's try this week, in God's strength and power, to do everything without complaining. Next week, let's talk about arguing. So I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week here at Positive Life Principles.